Okay, this is episode 12, performance media. So today we have a number of topics, but we're going to focus on anything using media and technology to persuade at scale. Today we're going to focus on some of the posts that we had come out over the last week and some of the client issues we've been facing that have to do with those posts. So Austin, do you have one that you want to dive into first?
Let's start with what we were just talking about, and we can just like kind of flow through. Yeah. Kind of so one of the posts that I put out was prospective client asking about if they think tracking will ever get better
Yep.
for these mediums, or if we're going to just go into a dark abyss where we don't understand anything anymore after iOS 14.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, right? It was getting worse anyways. Everybody just knows it's kind of like AD and BC before Christ after that. Yeah, exactly. It's like iOS 14 happened. And then it's like, no, that was just like a symptom of the bigger issue. And I think then that flows good into your third-party conversion tracking is broken after that. But no, I don't think these mediums are going. Okay, so here, we'll start at the beginning. The perspective was asking whether or not that we believe Facebook, Google, TikTok, Twitter will ever be as good as they once were when it comes to conversion tracking and attribution. And my initial thinking is no, they won't, in the sense of Google, Facebook, and Apple. I don't know if TikTok is in this shadow war. You got to assume they probably are. But regardless, those three platforms are more and more purposely keeping data from each other because they want to have the upper hand. And in Apple's case, they want to act like they're being more private with your data and not sharing it to everyone. In reality, that's their front-facing. What they're telling you, what they're actually doing is just creating their own proprietary ad software, which they'll be using your data on. And so it's easier if they own your data than if they're giving it away for you to, oh, wow, this search engine's way better. It knows what I'm thinking compared to, if you're using Apple search over Google search. So where that's moving is a pretty interesting path because at this point in time, trusting these mediums is like fool's errand. Google Analytics is depreciating even in what it shows, especially if you're using it in ad platforms. It just doesn't make any sense. Google Ads, Facebook is 70% accurate. You can definitely find accuracy in specific accounts for specific conversions, but like when you're just looking at the overall landscape, it's like 70 to 75% accurate, I would say. TikTok is 50 to 60% accurate. Again, specific accounts, specific conversion events, you can see 80, 90% accuracy on, but when we're just looking at averages overall. And so we're moving into like the age of third-party tracking because we need someone else to have a second perspective on the data, aggregate everything, show side by side what is Google Ads showing, what is Facebook Ads showing, what is Google Analytics showing, and then what is their proprietary or a secondary means of attribution showing so that you have a better way to look at everything that is coming in data-wise and determine for yourself, because this is where being an adult comes in. You're going to have to actually make a decision of which formula, aspect, attribution platform you're going to trust and run with the business. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as everyone is aligned with this thing and you're starting by looking at a certain map. That map is the map that you will use. And when revenue goes up, you can tell what happened to make revenue go up. When revenue goes down, you can tell what happens to make revenue go down. You can start that analysis. Yeah, it's a really weird world that we're going into when it comes to all of this. And then the other piece of it is something we've been talking about a lot lately, which is not just the quantitative measurement, but the qualitative measurement. So the same perspective, I was like, hey, have you ever tried using a survey at the end? Just to kind of figure out where people who are buying a $400 product are coming from. Yeah, we're not going to get, if there's 1,000 sales, we'll probably only get 20 to 50 surveys filled out. But those are like invaluable because if we have, let's say, out of the 50, 20 of them say Facebook ads sent them. But when we're looking at the attribution data, we're seeing Google ads is taking all the credit. Then we pretty obviously know that people are viewing all these ads on Facebook. And that's what's making them go type into Google, hey, show me this program. They buy from Google when they were actually originally coming from, or their original attribution source is a view on Facebook, which you typically wouldn't count in your attribution model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. I think a big part of what you said was the deduplication on any one platform, which when you're looking at individual platforms, whether it's Facebook or Google, is not happening. And that's why you see these accounts where you have multiple conversion credits given for different ad platforms, and it becomes impossible to try to decide how you're going to attribute those sales. And this is a big problem too, because like what you were talking about with misattribution, where somebody might initially see your product or your brand based on a Facebook ad and then type it into Google, and then that gets attributed to Google. Or worse is when it isn't deduplicated and it's attributed to both Facebook and Google. So it's like there's a lot of different problems with these softwares. And I think the first piece, which I mentioned in that article, is just people understanding what these errors are. So when they're looking at the data, they're not first assuming that it is correct in the way most people think about, which is like this absolute sense.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny, like a thought that came up during it is where I said, like it almost doesn't matter which of the attribution models you're using, just that you pick one and stick to it and then recalibrate all of your numbers based on that one. It's almost like you could like train a rat. I mean, they have like hilarious studies where they train rats on the stock market, and the rats like do better than most traders just pressing buttons based off of like indicators that we don't understand, but they're just picking an indicator and following, and then they're beating most stock traders simply because they're just following that indicator over and over again. And it's like, yeah, maybe you actually don't need the substantial information, like understanding exactly why and what is converting, but more that you picked something that you're sticking to and you're using that indicator religiously and tying the data that you're getting to that indicator or that attribution model in this sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's almost a more accurate way to look at it. As long as you decide on what a correlation is and stick to it, yeah, it's more accurate than what most people assume, which is that what they're looking at is telling the entire story of what's going on with their customer. Yeah, totally. So the moral of the story is you may be better off with a rat as your marketing analyst. But it is crazy. It is crazy how incorrect some of this data is.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with the article on tracking. Yeah, I think the main point was just that the way people are looking at it is incorrect. If you want to have a better idea of how to use these tools, really just a little bit of reading into how attribution credit systems work, what they're actually tracking, what other things might be affecting their user. So I know a big one we talk about is things like influencers, and this is for a lot of reasons. I think one of the biggest ones is there's all these other sensory input pieces of data people are getting that are causing them to make these buying decisions. And a huge one we all weigh a lot is social proof. And influencers, in addition to coming with built-in audiences that we can use for data, a big piece that we cannot track is their social proof and the influence that has on people's buying decisions, how they're making those decisions. So how are you getting people to use influencers? I know you've been in a lot of talks, like negotiating some of the deals to get influencers on board.
I mean, I think it's even further than what you were just saying with social proof. I think like we can look at this almost like politics right now. It is so polarized, and it's to the point where like people don't trust counterparties like at all. They don't trust their information like at all. And it's like, come on, it can't be 100% BS. There has to be substance in there. And it's likely, maybe it's 50%. It's likely both parties have 50% of their information correct on an average generalized sense, just looking at like a data analyst. Now, the same thing is happening, in my opinion, when it comes to like advertising and branding. Most people using a social platform like believe 50% of brands. They're like at the point where they either like super align with brands or they don't align with brands. And what we're seeing more and more is people are aligning insane amounts with influencers over brands. And so if counterparties. If someone's like super, they believe in keto is like their jam, and they see an influencer who's like the keto cook promoting a product, they're like, yeah, 100%, I'm behind this guy. They don't even need to do research.
Yeah. Or if they see a big company that's promoting keto, they're immediately like, there's something non-keto about this product.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. So it's becoming like, if you're the counter information or you're an authority or you're an actual face that in a sense, right, has skin in the game because you promote a product that's BS, like you can actually get sued for that. And people will just destroy your comment section and DM you relentlessly to be like, you did this incorrectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're looking for someone who actually skinned the game rather than just like a brand with a cool logo.
Yeah.
And it's like cool logo picture versus like middle American.
I just saw this.
Yeah.
I just saw this in a LinkedIn post. Somebody was literally talking about how if a company says plant-based nowadays, you have to discount it immediately. If a big company is saying plant-based. And it's like, we always talk about this too, at the levels of sophistication of markets. And this applies to marketing messages, business models, types of promotions, which in this case, like people are tired of seeing like non-authentic content. They're just tired of it.
Totally.
Or things they perceive as non-authentic content.
I mean, in my reality, well, granted, I have ad blockers on and I have newsfeed eradicators and all these things to prevent myself from seeing ads unless I intentionally am studying someone else's ads. I don't buy from any brands, any new brands, unless like literally when I want to buy things, I look up trusted individuals and what they recommend, and I go and I buy that thing. Or because we're in a unique position where we have access to some of the top authorities in the world for many of these different interests that we have, I just ask them, like, hey, what do you recommend for X? Instead of going and being like top brands or like, oh, an ad showed me Y. Like if that ad is from someone who I believe and respect, hands down, I'll check that out every time. But if it's just from some new brand, I'm like, yeah, you're lying. I don't trust you. Why would I just trust you? Because I know marketing, and most people nowadays are like, I've got a million ads for insert the blank. So yeah, I mean, today influencers are necessary. Alternate sources of truth about the subject your brand is talking about. And so as you were saying originally, it's like, how do you track that? How do you use influencers? I mean, not only do you get a lift in actual attribution and return on ad spend when you're using influencers as second voices or branded partners or whatever that looks like, but you are building the demand. You're doing demand generation in a way where you're going to see Google search increase. You're going to see organic presence increase. You're going to see organic searches on Instagram, on TikTok, on all those things increase. And you're not going to measure any of that, or most people won't measure any of that, but you are seeing more of a lift. You're seeing more Amazon sales. You're seeing more, XYZ, because now your brand is in front of people who are looking to this person as a trusted source, and they're searching on their preferred medium. They're not just clicking the ad, they're searching on their preferred medium for your brand. So you better show up there. And if you do show up there, you're likely to have more of a conversion. You're likely to see an entire lift. It's why, like in the past, you used to pay a celebrity $1 million for a post. I mean, and now you can find great influencers that have 100, 200, 300, 500,000 followers, pay them $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, give them an affiliate cut, and boom, like you're getting the same results that Coke used to pay Kardashian $1 million for.
Yeah, and this is one of the things we were talking about too with some of these terms that come up. Like we were joking about the term dark social. But it does represent this idea where there are so many mediums that are untrackable, especially when we talk about influencers and the weighting people have on that in their minds. That totally permeates all these mediums, right? It doesn't matter if they're purchasing on Amazon, doesn't matter if they're purchasing on your store. They could have heard you on a podcast. If you're, again, getting that social proof from someone that's really well known, it really doesn't matter what medium you're purchasing on. You're going to see that lift across those mediums. And measuring that is difficult. For most companies, it's going to be impossible. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, and that's where the qualitative comes down. Hey, do you have a survey? Hey, do you have a way? Even like, and I don't even know if there's a tool for this, but let's say you're using an affiliate platform. Like this would be great for an affiliate platform to build in to their functionality, which is like you're an affiliate tracking platform. And so you have your referral code or whatever, or the ref code, which I know you can put into the UTMs to track the affiliate link. Let's say someone clicks that and then they go through the whole checkout. If there was like an overlaid survey at the end that said like, hey, did you come through one of these affiliates, and have them actually click a quick button that says like, yeah, Kim is the one who referred me.
Even if more D2C companies did the form fill, just like telling what source, like literally if there's an easy way to do that wasn't decreasing your conversion rates, it'd be a game changer for most companies.
And put in the source your top 5 affiliates, not just like Facebook, Instagram, Google, Pinterest, Twitter, but also like specifically, like I came from X influencer. Why? Like put all those people in there because that's actually better data. Like Instagram, then you're like, oh, cool, could be any influencer. But if you actually have a specific quick check box, or could be multi-box, because you might be able to say like, please check every medium that like sent you to us, you're going to get some more data than you would otherwise.
100%. And with the form fill too, you're going to get some qualitative data you wouldn't even expect. Like, especially I heard, this influencer on this podcast, things that for a lot of people are going to be surprising.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I know you talk about this, another one of these factors that's difficult or impossible to measure. You were talking about your posts, faceless brands are out.
Yeah.
I'm going to that one a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very similar thing to what I'm saying here, which is like, if you're starting a brand or you have a brand, and I'm going to reframe this at the beginning. You're selling to a human, a product that a human likely uses. If you're selling, I don't know, like some firmware for robots, discard what I'm going to say, because we're talking about different things. But if you're an e-com business owner, you're selling to a human who's going to use your product. They're going to consume it. They're going to wear it. They're going to use it daily. They're going to, I don't know, whatever they're going to do with it, they're going to do it. The funny thing is most brands are just logo, and they don't have a human spokesperson, someone who talks about the brand to people. And so my screen keeps like glitching out, which is why you're going to see like I don't even know what's going on. The lighting in and out.
We'll get you some lighting. Don't worry.
Yeah. But so what you notice with these brands is it's way harder to, someone we worked with a long time ago used to say, know, love, and trust that brand. And the reason is, how do you connect with a brand that doesn't have a face? Like Steve Jobs was Apple. It's like, that's very obvious. Elon Musk is Tesla. I could probably riff like 30 to 50 massive brands and who
and Mark Zuckerberg in for good measure.
Zuckerberg and Meta.
Yeah.
He's our favorite personality behind a brand we've ever met. I've never met him. I don't know if I want to. But like this is a very obvious thing. You have these people who are faces of brands. You can identify with the brand. You know who the brand is. You have something like Peloton. Does Peloton have a face? I don't know if they do. And here's the thing. If we see another 25...
Peloton has celebrity instructors.
Okay. Yeah, which is great. But this is what I think we're going to see happen moving into recession, tech stocks going down, XYZ, is people not associating as much when 35 other competitors pop up. Mm-hmm. And you see other similar movers in those industries pop up. The one that has the face, I think ultimately will win out. Like Beachbody has done well with Tony Horton and
same thing though. They have the downline of trainers. Same thing as Peloton.
Totally. But they started really with Tony Horton and I forget the other dude's name. It was like the two main guys who were P90X and XYZ for Beachbody. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they did the downstream of trainers. And so like, if you're just a brand and you're trying to figure out, how do we scale, you're a founder and you don't want to be in front of people, which doesn't make sense. Like, why'd you that's an interesting way to start an e-commerce business without wanting to be in front of people. Or you're a founder and you don't want to be in front of people and you haven't started finding someone who does, then get to it, because you're going to have to figure out who's going to be the face of this company, whether it's 30 different influencers that are going to
micro influencers.
Let's say you have a person to represent each customer persona. That makes a lot of sense. Or
that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Or you have, one or two main people who are going to represent your brand. Similarly, the founder could, and that's where being a founder brand makes a lot of sense. We just talked about this with a client of ours yesterday. Was focusing a bit more on posting as the founders, giving updates. What's going on with the product? What's going on with the business? What are the challenges you're going through? Humanize the business, and people will follow and trust you. And then you're able to actually get them to identify as part of the brand.
This is really important for brands that aren't sure about. We talk about this as well, like what they're going to do to define themselves as different. I know we mentioned a couple posts about creating a category is the ultimate way to do this. This is kind of like a great first step. If you haven't quite defined that, you definitely have someone that's unique or a unique founding story. And you can start with that. The one we always talk about in our posts is the example given in the book, David Gerhardt's book, Founder Brand, of David Cancel, the CEO of Drift. So they came up with, first they had him out there evangelizing the product, and they came up with a category of conversational marketing for their messaging platform to sell products. So it's like those two elements make you unstoppable. But if you have neither, you can always start with founders evangelizing your brand and then start to figure out your brand story. And then as you get customers, really start to solidify that message of your place in the market, why it matters, why people should care.
Yeah, I mean, just get in front of people. If you're a founder and you don't stand behind your product 100%, like reconsider why you're selling something in the first place. That's like my honest truth. I believe if you found a company, you should also be the person who is on top of mountains yelling at people about your product.
With a bullhorn.
Yeah, with a bullhorn. They can't really hear you because you're doing a blowhorn. And
it shows effort, though. The effort. No,
but like actually, like you should be the biggest evangelist of your product if you created a product. And if not, you're probably just selling a knickknack to make some money and whatever. Like, respect the hustle, but I truly believe you should be like moving forward in the direction of what calls you as a business owner.
And it's easier to recruit all these people. We talk about this too, from influencers to founders to investment to employees. Anyone you want, they're going to be more easily persuaded to join you on your quest if you're out there evangelizing it. So the second part of this, though, is influencers aren't working on your timeline. There's a lot of challenges with working with other people and getting them in your boat to promote the direction of your boat. So how do you do that? Like, what are the challenges? Are there any workflows that you figured out or working on? What's going on?
Yeah, I think, it's like courting a relationship at the beginning.
It's almost like sales.
First, want to do a test to see if this is even a relationship you want to build. That's the truth. That's often where I say, like, hey, let's just do a branded post with this person, pay them for an ad or pay them per the post and give them some affiliate cut off of what products are sold from their post, both paid as well as organic once they post that. Once that happens and we know we want to further a relationship with an influencer, it really becomes understanding scope, giving them scope, understanding how much capacity they have out of the gate. And then as long as you have a system which works internally, you're going to almost always have to work around that influencer. So you'll need an affiliate manager or someone who's managing that relationship. And then let's say, this influencer only works on iCloud, because sometimes you get that, or Google Drive or email. The truth is, like, they're in their mind, like, they're king of the castle, right? They're an influencer. Like, they developed a brand around, their ego in a sense, right? Or their information or whatever it is. And so
not always, sometimes
not always, but I would say 95% of the time. Yeah. And so you want them to work on your business now, which, like, they always want it to feel like it's a partnership, because
you can see how there's sort of like a,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the best course of action is always figuring out how you can make it the least amount of work for them. And often that means more work for you at the beginning, but it's just system design. And it's understanding whether or not the relationship is one that you want to design a system for. So that's where I say always do the least effort test at the beginning to verify whether or not this is a good relationship on both sides, and then move more through that process of, okay, yeah, they only send things on Gmail, or this influencer likes to text, or whatever it is. It's not great, but that's the name of the game with people who have millions of followers and you want to rent their traffic. Now, I will say this, the more desirable the deal is for them, i.e. the more money they're going to make, the more they'll work with you on that process too. So for instance, if they know, affiliates with X brand make on average $20,000 to $30,000 a month in affiliate commissions, they may change to, jump in your sauna or get you some continuous updating content and copy.
Change their tune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But having tutorial videos out of the gate of how to be added to certain aspects of the business, meaning like Business Manager and Shopify and whatever referral or affiliate tracking platform you're using, have the easiest process ever to get set up, because I've also seen where influencers get frustrated trying to figure out how to share access to things and just ghost you or stop working with you. And it's the perfect person, but they just don't have the time to figure out the technicalities behind things. And you didn't provide a clear path forward. So they're just like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, no, we talk about this with onboarding a lot, whether it's a client or an influencer, you should have something that you think of as like a product. So this could be a mini video course, or just a document with links to like Loom videos, but it should show step by step how to link all these accounts. And the big things that need this sort of attention to detail are initial onboarding for sharing accounts, and then a system for putting in requests for someone to generate content, and then a system for them to send you content. A lot of the time, this system is going to be limited by who's managing it. So most influencers hopefully will have some sort of handler they work with, or someone at your company that is going to be performing that job. So that's the person that needs to understand these workflows. And then of course, prior to requesting anything, there's the compliance issue. Do you want to get into that one?
This is like the hardest part about working with influencers is, okay, it's like a twofold thing. It's their brand and business, right? And it's their message and it's their face. So everything that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, the positives that we're getting it's from them to their people, but they are the ones who have the skin in the game. You know, we do too, because there's a contract and we pay them and yada, yada, but it's their face. And so it's the blowback goes to them if there's blowback. So the most important thing to iron out is an approval process, and a way for them to give not blanket approval, but approval to a point where you don't end up having the problem where you're running a piece of content that they now don't agree with, let's say a month later, and it's your best performing piece of content, and they want you to take it down and swap it out. So it's like creating an evergreen approval process for content that you continue to check with them. Hey, you're 100% sure that this post is good. It sounds like we're able to get it up, and we can put unlimited spend behind it if it is one that can scale. That comes from verbiage and language, because some of them have things they literally aren't allowed to say. Maybe they're a doctor and you're getting a promotional post by a influencer doctor. They're likely going to have things they can and can't say. Maybe the product just has some more legal terminology, or it's an investment product or whatever, right? Just making sure the legal checks out, making sure that the language is either written from them or sounds like it is exactly from them. So your copywriting is on point, and making sure that image or video is one that will stand the test of time, and that it's not just like, it's Christmas, get 30% off. That's great, but that needs to be a different conversation. And that's a different contract and a different offer that you're creating with that influencer. But for the most part, always go evergreen, always get the max amount of approvals that you can for everything that you're going to post, because pulling a good creative and a good ad from, it's the worst thing ever. You're like, this is our best performer, but I get it. You don't believe in the word X anymore. And so it's
gotta go down. Yeah. One thing I'll add to that too is, for the approval process. So we talk about this a lot of the time, getting people on board about the KPIs for a business. The same thing for an influencer is getting on board about the approval gates, the specific things you're going to hit. Like, I will have this conversation with you before I post a batch of creative, whatever that is, both with your team, compliance, like legal for your company, and then with the influencers team of like, that they're okay with what it looks like just from a optics point of view for the influencer.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is a text message saying that someone wrote some copy that is made up about the influencer, and they're very upset. You could lose a client, you could lose the influencer. Literally, there could be legal trouble depending on what the claims are. So it's super, super important. Everything is approved top to bottom. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. And if you don't have experience with it, just make sure you're working with people to do. Okay, let's go back into the one about prospective client. So what else are you hearing? Are you hearing any other concerns besides the tracking stuff like iOS 14? I know we've talked about the influencer stuff. I've definitely heard a lack of capacity internally at companies for them to do any outreach for influencers. Do you have any maybe suggestions for people that don't have that capacity internally to do sales and try to find these influencers and reach out?
Honestly, hashtag paid is the solution right now. There's a few other, I know you dropped the other one. I forget the name of the other one.
Most of those were just tools for like either requesting creative, getting UGC. They weren't, I think hashtag paid is the only influencer platform that we're using.
There's the other one we used a long time ago, but we haven't circled back because hashtag paid's been the best thus far. I can't remember the name of the other one. Wow, it's been like a year and a half, but they were like startup at that point in time. Yeah, I mean, using a tool that has influencers on it already, that it's very easy to send them some content or some product and get the content quick, get it approved. They have a legal system or they have a legal process already ironed out for contracts on their platform. They have the ability for the influencer to update and upload creative and content and copy. And they have guides already to show the influencers how to share business access for everything that's needed. It's like, that's your all-in-one. But again, the only reason that we say don't just use something like hashtag paid is because you'll often find that your niche has very specific influencers that aren't using those platforms because they know how much they're worth and they want direct deals and partnerships with brands, because that's a negotiation for the influencer to get more other brands, but it's also a way for the influencer to negotiate better deals for themselves. So you use both. If you don't have the in-house capacity, use hashtag paid. Once you possibly build up a hashtag paid portfolio of influencers and have clear data on how well it's worked for those influencers, or those influencers' posts have worked and what an influencer like them could have made if they had negotiated an individual deal with the brand, then that's when you move to negotiating those individual deals with people that are more than worth it for your brand. And those people come to you. Sometimes they're customers. Sometimes they just approach you. Sometimes we've done a YouTube review video around your product. There's just a lot of different ways for that to come about.
I want to touch on what you were saying with the influencer portfolios, because this may be, think of a conversation we had last week about the portfolio of creative assets and pipelines you need to run a modern like D2C e-commerce business that's scaling, especially on paid traffic. And I know we've talked about mostly only companies getting close to the 9-figure range or past it have fully internal capacity to generate all these different types of creative, from UGC to like high-ended scripted content for video ads to high volume of just regular ads for testing to keep testing velocity up in the ad accounts. So as people are scaling their business, how would you suggest, like, let's take this theoretical 7-figure e-commerce business doing $3 million a year that wants to get to 100 million, and they're slowly building out that capacity. I listed all these tools, which I'll link in the video description below, of all the tools that we think companies should be using. What would you start with, and how would you scale those tools to get that portfolio of creative testing?
Totally. So I'm going to ramble a few and then fill in any gaps that I missed. When it comes to creatives, the truth is you almost always need at least raw creatives from the business out of the gate. So the business will almost always have to take photos of the product imagery, a bit of lifestyle imagery, a bit of like, if you're working with an influencer, or not an influencer, if you're a founder's brand, you're going to have to record yourself talking with the product, taking pictures of the product. Traditional, regular Instagram content, right? It's nothing crazy or out of the norm. Then you can take a lot of that raw imagery and creative, and you can put it in something like Pencil, try Pencil, and you can have it algorithmically spit out content that is aligned with your brand. It always makes more sense to keep a tighter leash on AI-based tools than not, because everything in AI that can be used for marketing, I would say, is still 80% of the way there. It's not like
it comes up with some weird ideas sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with that, try Pencil is great. Then there's also AI tools to help write copy and things like that as well. And that can be fun to play with if you've never played with it.
I know one of the guys has been testing the ones that have the API access for like GPT-3 or like maybe some derivative product like that. All
of them use GPT-3. They've just gotten access to it from a college or something, and they pay per use. And then, so you're paying X amount you're paying a monthly subscription basically to their GPT-3 subscription.
Have you seen those work yet? I haven't checked any of the auto-generated copy, just creative.
No, I know a few people are using them even for email and content, but
Amazing.
yeah, it's something that like within the next month, I actually do want to start testing for some just like basic ad copywriting, feed it all of what we've written for specific people and see what it spits out.
Yeah.
But we'll have to keep a tight leash on that too at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And then there's Billo, which is great for reviews, UGC based reviews, content that looks like, well, it is. I mean, content that is real people reviewing and taking pictures with the product. Mm-hmm. That's great. I definitely would recommend using Billo as well. And then there's hashtag paid for getting actual influencers that have following that you're able to use their content through their media channels.
Mm-hmm. No Limit and Video Husky were others. I'm just going to feed them to you. Do you still recommend those? How do you feel about those ones?
Yeah, No Limit I think is great. Still, we use it, albeit 30 or 40% less, or 30-40% of what we used to use it for, just because we have all these other tools, and they are a basically outsourced creative team. That's kind of how you can think about them. It does take a bit more management and more direction. So you probably want like a creative director or a media buyer who specializes in creatives, who is managing the creation process. Yeah. But they're great too.
If you're training a team too, the value of their templates and their process is so good for training a creative team. Just to work with them for a little.
Yeah. And Video Husky we use for a bit, but the management and the how much oversight you had to have, and like at the 2-minute mark, put this in, and like things like that. It just it didn't make sense for us.
They were using Rike, that video management software, not as easy as like a creative request on Asana.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as of recently, Media Pouch.
Yeah. Oh, can't wait we're still trying to, our buddy Ryan running Media Pouch for like high quality scripted creative. So we have tested Harmon Brothers, which I know they're trying to do a similar product, scripted like story brand creatives for YouTube mostly. And then, so they're getting into some interesting stuff with testing, like splitting out modules on the video and testing each part for like watch time, and excited to learn more about that.
Yeah, but that's it's kind of a different creative in the sense of like if you are trying to quickly split test 10 to 15 images, try Pencil, or 10 to 15 UGC, Billo, hashtag paid, like you want it to like bang them out, right? If you are trying to create demand and you're trying to drive top of funnel awareness, and you want like a video that people are like, whoa, what the hell is this thing? And you don't necessarily need to test for conversions real quick and go through that. That's where something like Media Pouch is great and makes sense to use. Yeah. So again, it's just all levels, where you are, what you're looking for, what you're trying to drive awareness wise, or if you're trying
I feel like we need like an infographic for these tools, like when they fit into like your creative pipeline development process. Yeah,
let's do that. That's easy.
It will like draw it on a whiteboard or something.
Yeah, we'll give you our 3-second $3 infographic. Buy whiteboards and use this here and this here. You have to decode my handwriting though. Right?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, last one I want to ask about is like for a scaling startup, retention tools. Would they just hire someone to do email marketing and copywriting in-house, or there's anything else besides email and SMS like they need to have right away?
Email and SMS are the number one. So for most of these businesses, retention is like the way they stay afloat. So I would say if you're just like willy-nillying that, like, come on, that's not good.
Shooting yourself in the foot.
That goes for both. Like, let's say you have apps. If you have app downloads, then you really will need to. I probably have a baby crying in the background. If you're downloading apps, then you want someone to stick on your app for 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Like you need someone who's doing push notifications. You need someone who is emailing people, getting the qualitative data that you need to understand why someone is or is not staying with the app, and fix whatever the problems are for the reason they're not staying. Yeah, having a dedicated email marketing manager, someone who's actually building flows, going through the data, what's going on with email and SMS, like it can be a very similar person or the same person who does both. I mean, necessary and crucial in my opinion. Especially today. And it's only going to get more and more, because I know we talked about this a few days ago, but you have a tech company like Netflix, their whole business is subscription model. I mean, theoretically, it's the exact same for like a supplement company that has recurring. It's the same. And so if you're having drop off that's worse than your new customer onboarding, well, one, that's horrible, but two, like you're not going to survive. And so it comes down to, are you getting more new customers and less drop off? Those are like your two levers that you can pull there.
Yeah.
Just like drive as many new qualified people as possible and make sure the least amount of people possible are canceling subscriptions or reorders.
Yeah. No, it's like I always say, like, what was that Brian Balfour article? Retention is the king of growth, or Andrew Chen. But the great part is the graph. I feel like every like founder that's on a subscription model, or even anyone with recurring customers, which should be every business, needs to just look at that graph and be like, if I'm actually not paying attention to retention over time, like this isn't going to work.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so definitely e-com business owners need to think about that from the start. Man, this is a long one. We're already like 45 minutes. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over today? Are we missing these articles? Anything that's on your mind?
I mean, we've kind of gone through most of the things with growth with the business. I think the last thing is someone for conversion rate optimization. This is honestly probably the most annoying thing that we have to run into on a daily, weekly basis. Is we're buying traffic, it's qualified, the cost per click is not bad, the CTR is not bad, the conversion rate once they get to the actual page is horrible, or the revenue per visitor is much lower than the cost per click, even though it's a good cost per click.
Okay, I got to jump in and play devil's advocate though. People would say that, hey, that's not qualified traffic. There's been no demand generated. So what would you say to that? Is this just a CRO problem? Or?
A page that doesn't convert is a page that doesn't convert. A website that doesn't convert is a website that doesn't convert. If I put you on a page and it takes 15 scrolls to get you to a button to buy something, then like I could send the guy who wants to buy something from you. And when I'm like on my phone, like, okay, where is this?
That's true. If it's that bad, that's okay. What percent is it though, between non-qualified traffic that we're somehow getting to click, or like people that really have pages that are so bad? There's the guy in line at Walmart scrolling off the end of his phone. He can't reach the product page.
I mean, for instance, like, one of our clients has like a pretty hard time building pages that convert. And like, they're a brand that has like loyal, incredible followers, but it's
want to buy.
Yeah. But it's like pulling teeth to get cold traffic to convert because the page loads slow. The button doesn't show up for a while. Like there's no relational element on the sales page. You don't know what you're buying or why you're buying. It does need demand generation. Don't get me wrong. That's a massive portion of why the cold doesn't work. Yeah. But ultimately, if it was a cold traffic D2C page, it would work 10 times better. And it's just going crazy again.
The baby, man, it's going viral. Yeah. I just had to throw that out there because that's always going to be people's first complaint. It's like, well, it wasn't qualified traffic. But if it is, there needs to be work done after the fact to keep the buying process going.
And here's the second way, like for us, when we're talking about qualified traffic, we're talking about something slightly different in the sense of every company we work with has at least 1,000 purchases that have happened over its lifetime. We've trained the pixels on the 1,000 purchases that have happened. We backdate or we like change the date. So it makes it look like they just happened recently. But then the pixel is trained on who's a qualified buyer. And almost always, it can pretty much immediately find in the lookalike audiences, in broad audiences, in whatever, relate people who look just like the buyer. So it should be finding qualified people.
Yeah.
If the brand doesn't have that many people, that's not the case. There's demand generation that needs to be done. There is just basic event gathering, data gathering that needs to be done. And yeah, you're probably right. It's not the most qualified traffic. But if you are one of our clients or you have thousands of conversions.
Good data sets, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the pixel has it, you're pretty much always guaranteed that you're reaching pretty good people. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Even in 2022 on Meta, that is still the case.
Yeah. Exactly.
Other ad channels, we'll have to talk about that another time. That's a great point though. Yeah. Last thing then, if you're going to lead people with that, what do you do? What's the easiest way to get someone that's qualified to make a real cold traffic landing page if they don't have anyone on their team? I would say you have to go find someone that has that in their resume or can speak to it. Yeah. But what do you think?
I don't think this is a willy-nilly thing you can do. I think you need someone who's done it before, so they have actual case studies. They can point to businesses they work with who've done it before. We have a few people that we like to work with, and they are relentless about pursuing data So they're not just a landing page builder who builds pretty pages, because a lot of people will show you like, look at this page, and you're like, oh, that looks great. But like, you need to know that they don't care at all about what the page looks like. They want it to be the same brand as what your brand is and look like it's your brand page, but they have no emotional ties to the style. All they care about is what the data is saying and what needs to be changed on the page to make the data show that the conversion rate is going up.
Yeah. Then it's all data. I love that. That is a good one. Man, a lot of those topics could definitely be a whole podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll save them. But nice. I don't have anything else I want to go over. This actually we went into more than I thought we were going to for this one.
Yeah. No, this was great. Well,
amazing.
Yeah, we'll separate a lot of these out into actual small clips, small podcasts.
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. Sounds good, brother.
Awesome.